Good morning, everyone. We're streaming live now. Great. So my name is Janice Amiro, and I am the founder of Janice Inspiring Change Holistic Nutrition. And in December, I decided to bring you some conversation about how the health practitioners are working together to inspire change in people. And today's guest is someone who it's a little bit different. And today's guest is someone who is not a health practitioner. She is a friend of mine who has been diagnosed with an illness, and she is a powerhouse as the way she has decided to manage her illness. Welcome, Anna Bhalla.
Thank you so much, Janice. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And Anna is currently in Qatar. So it is about 7:30 in the evening there. So she's had her first day of the weekend. No, second day of the weekend. It's Saturday. So I do want to connect with us on my Facebook page, because this is, we'd like to be able to open the door to the floor to questions. So I'm going to try to do this. So, so Anna has agreed to talk about her diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. So thanks again for joining me. So Anna, let's get right into it. I know there's so many people who are going through what you went through when you were told that you had MS. Can you give me a little bit of a history about how you learned that you did indeed have this disease?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me here, Janice. I'm very happy to be here. As I sort of mentioned earlier, I was a little bit nervous, but I think it's important what you're doing. And it's important to raise awareness around a variety of such conditions, and just to let people know how they can manage it and not be, scared by it. So for me, a little bit of the history. I think the trigger point, and I believe the trigger point was stress. It started with that, and the stress was so much that it resulted in an attack, which is called optic neuritis. As you know, it is sort of you lose vision in one of your eyes. It could be both eyes, but so that was the first part. When I completely lost vision, everything was just gray. And this was back home in India. And of course, the doctors treated, and they had the standard steroid IVs, and the vision came back in a week. And of course, when I checked, they said it's okay. It could have been stress and dehydration related, and it should be okay later. Things went on as before, as my life was, and then a year and a half later, I had a similar attack in the other eye, my left eye.
Oh.
Yeah, again, complete vision, complete blackout. But again, we follow the same sort of process and treatment, and in a week, I could see again. So of course, it was these two that sort of made me realize something's up. But of course, we were not sure. Much later, I think in 2016 is when I realized what it was.
Okay, so you investigated why this had happened to you, and then you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Yes, in fact, the diagnosis took place in Qatar. I came to Qatar only after I got married, and we just ran a couple of tests and had an MRI scan at the government hospital here, and they diagnosed with something called RRMS, which you know as relapsing remitting. So of course, there are different kinds of multiple sclerosis. There's a progressive, there is relapsing, that the one that I have, and there are some others. But with relapsing remitting, essentially you basically sort of get these symptoms on and off. It's not on a continuous basis. It's not very grave, yet it's not something you can avoid and ignore. But yeah, that's pretty much how it got diagnosed.
Okay, so what was the prognosis at that time?
Um, you know how we are as humans, right? We try and live in denial for most part of it because we don't want to know that something is seriously wrong, right? So even if someone comes up with a solution or says that, it could be this, we're like, no, 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 it can't be. So I think a lot was just trying to work around stress, and stress has caused it. You need to relax, you need to meditate, you need to stop working maybe for some time, things around that. So there was no proper sort of, there was no confirmation. These were just different predictions by different people, whether it's family or, healthcare workers, anybody. So there was nothing firmed up.
And so did you try reducing stress, meditation? Did you try these things in the beginning?
No, not at all.
Okay.
In fact, because it was because it wasn't confirmed, right? So when something's not confirmed and you're just toying with different possible trigger points, you're not sure exactly what you need to work on. And meditation is not something that comes easily to people. We just shoot it down saying, oh my God, it's not something we can do. It's boring. What do you do with it? But yeah, not in the beginning at all.
Okay. So, so when you were dealing with the diagnosis, was there suggestions for any type of medication or anything at all? What was the recommendations?
So when I was diagnosed in Qatar, my doctor was really great. He continues to, I continue to go to him for consultations. What he told me was that it's not severe, right? Yes, there are some issues with the nervous system and all of that, but it's not severe, but it requires medication. So I was given something called fingolimod, which is also, I think the common name is Gilenya. So you just take a pill every day for the rest of your life till you turn maybe 45, 50. It really depends on, the improvement that you have over time. And you take vitamin D supplements for sure, because that's one of the key reasons why you could get it. So it's better to be safe. So in terms of medication, it was just these two, which I continue to take, and I'm sure they've been helping me a lot. But barring medications, there was nothing else. Of course, in India, we have homeopathy that I have tried as well. I've tried some Ayurvedic recommendations. But again, this is all shooting in the dark because you're not exactly sure what fits in.
So what have you done after your diagnosis? What changes have you made? What is it that you have decided to do?
So when I was diagnosed, now I've heard of MS before, as a lot of us might have. I think it's a very, how they say too much information is not good for you.
And today's world of the internet, it's very confusing. Yeah,
exactly. And I just like anyone else, I went on Google and I said, okay, let's type RRMS and let's see what it is. And it throws up some of the scariest things that you never want to see. And but when I started researching a lot more, I've always believed that food is medicine in some way. It might take longer to help you, but it will, and it's much safer. But of course, not discounting the fact that the medication is critical as well, at least in the early stages. So I continued my medication, but I continue to research to find out what is the exact cause, what is MS, what exactly does it damage, what are the possible trigger points. And that's when I came across, and this is after, of course, a few months, it didn't happen overnight. I came across multiple patterns where I saw that if you eat a plant-based diet, it will eventually, in some cases, maybe cure it, I don't know, but definitely take you closer to a symptom-free life. Right? Of course, the cure was much lesser than living a symptom-free life, but why not live a symptom-free life? At the end of the day, that's what really bothers one on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Managing the situation and reducing symptoms can be the difference of a good life or a horrible life.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So you had learned about all of these. You had started to see a pattern of success with people who had changed their diet to a plant-based diet.
Yes, in fact, one of my sort of people I look up to in this situation and circumstance is Dr. Terry Walls. And she's been known to have a progressive MS. And she was literally, inclined on a wheelchair for months. And
Mhm,
she's a doctor herself. And she came back
mhm.
to a point today where she runs marathons. She
Yeah,
cycles, cross country sometimes. So if she can come back from there through a plant-based diet, I did not see a reason why I couldn't. And I was literally half her age when I got it.
right.
So I said, okay, I mean, why not?
Mhm, mhm. So with that, what did you do? So you started, you did some research. The common denominator in people who had better managed their diagnosis and seen become symptom free or reducing their symptoms. So you learned that a plant-based diet was helping people. So what did you do when you learned that?
Sure. Um, so I think before I even delve into that, what's important to note is something, the word which has totally changed my life is inflammation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I didn't know inflammation. I mean, I knew inflammation, but I didn't understand what was inflammation of the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really sort of was the directional point for me to understand how and what to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a common pattern. Read about a lot of stories where people have come out and spoken about it in their blogs or in TEDx and in other kind of platforms. And I realized that plant-based diet sort of is an anti-inflammatory diet,
Right.
and it does not only have the power to, it doesn't suppress. Let's put it that way. It doesn't suppress the issue. It sort of treats the root cause of it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many cases I've read about, and that's why I follow a similar diet today where, so MS is all about the myelin sheath, right? It's like the covering of the nerves that gets damaged.
Mm-hmm.
And there are foods that can repair this over time.
Yes.
There are ways to repair this over time. And that was mind boggling. And it literally teared me up. And I said, okay, if it can do this, then why shouldn't I do it?
Mm-hmm.
I've eaten a certain way all my life, and I've had that life, right? I'm done with it. Now maybe this is phase two. It was like a wake up call for me that I need to change something today, or else I might not have a healthy future.
Right. And it's so true that at that point you're actually you were able to without even the goal was to change your future, but at the
Right.
time you were you still didn't know what was going to happen, how it was going to go, and that was something you embarked on. So how did you shift your diet? How did you begin to know where to start with first of all, the over the big picture was
Yeah.
reducing symptoms, but then starting to manage inflammation. How did you get that started?
So I think what helped me in this entire process was something that is within me, which is an organization skill, so to speak. I'm very routine in that way, and very structured also. So whenever I would read something, I would take notes. I would make my own notes on the side, on a Word doc or an Excel. And then I would put down a food list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anti-inflammatory foods. That was my go-to thing initially, just to
Mm-hmm.
start and kickstart with that. So whatever inflammation is already there, try and first get rid of that
Mm-hmm.
before you start building new cells and build your body for the future. It was better to do that. So I got a list of thousands of foods, foods I'd never heard about. Some
Mm-hmm.
maybe I heard about, but I didn't know what it was for.
Mm-hmm.
Some I heard about and I was averse to it because I was like, okay, this is not tasty. Who would eat that? And this is just fancy food that's expensive, and I don't want to go that route.
Right.
But literally, it was a food list,
Mm-hmm.
and what were the benefits of each,
Mm-hmm.
what vitamins and minerals each one provided. It was, I mean, that particular paper I still have today somewhere in my attic, but it was a very well sort of informed and researched sort of document that I had to keep with myself till I sort of got used to understanding these foods are good. It took a long while. I think, yeah, so I mean, that's what I pretty much started with. And then I learned about macros, which I didn't know about as well. Said, okay, so macros also exist, and that's something you need to take care of because as an Indian, I know in a typical Indian diet, it's all about your carbs.
Yes.
You know, it's just carbs. It's the breads and the rice primarily, and then vegetables are sort of on the side, but they're so overly cooked and filled with spices that it kills everything. So there's so much still to learn about nutrition. You know, that it's amazing. It's amazing and scary because you're used to a certain way, and it's difficult to break habits.
Did you find that? Did you find that there was a little bit of you that was thinking that this can't really be the food that I've been eating all this time has really been not so good for me? Or did you believe that after all of your research, did you find it easy to accept that you know what you had been doing was not so great?
There are two things. One is, yes, a lot of the food, I was a non-vegetarian all my life. So I've eaten everything, fish, meat, whatever you name it.
Right.
So I think the first change was that food, and I mean, no offense to anybody, it's my personal opinion, that food is not good for me. It's not good for me, for MS. And obviously this is all research based. It's nothing that I came up with.
Right.
And the second, so that was my first change, right? That I had to change the kind of foods I was eating. If I was eating chicken, now I need to eat more vegetables. If I was eating, I don't know, fish, then I need to eat more seeds maybe to get the same omega-3, for example, or omega-6. So those were the first changes, which was a bit of hard hitting for me. And I think the second one, which was even more difficult, was the style of cooking, the style of preparing your food, right? As an Indian, again, I can only speak for myself, but when you cook food, you really have all the spices and almost everything that goes into it. And there's a sufficient amount of oil, which we feel is less, but actually it's a lot. You don't need that kind of oil because, again, it's processed.
Yes.
So I think my style of cooking had to change. You know, so eat more steamed food, you know, lightly spiced food. You don't have to overly spice and go all crazy with your senses, right? You know, you don't need to overcook. Try and soak more. Try and sprout more. So I think those were the two major shifts that I had to make.
I see. Yeah. And I think one time when we were talking, we were looking at what you were eating and where the oils might still be, because you know there's chapati and there's even though the food might have been plant-based, it was still being fried or lots of oil added. So it's the way, like you say, the way the food is prepared that you know, is, yes, some of the food you've taken out, but the way it's prepared is a big shift. And congratulations, because you know, when you have like you were saying earlier about, you know, if you make a lentil curry, a lentil gravy, you know, it's heavy. There's a lot of oil in that, and that's typically the type of food that you're used to. So so what you know, have you had any resistance with the changes that you've made? How about your household, your family unit, and your friends? How are you managing that?
Yes, of course there would be resistance because it's a totally new way of eating. I think the only positive part, if I might say so, is that we are exposed to so many different kind of vegetables growing up. So that wasn't so bad, right? It was more about what you're exactly shifting to and how you're going to cook those. But having said that, the challenges were more around, I think dairy was a tough one. And in my research, I came across a lot of, you know, discussions about dairy, how dairy impacts, how milk impacts.
Mhm.
And I've grown up, believing that it's my source of protein,
Yes.
it's my source of calcium, and you should not live without it. But when I really read about it, and it's multiple, right? It's not just one source, it's multiple sources. There are documentaries today that talk about it even more openly.
Mhm.
You realize because there is a logic behind it, right?
Yes.
It's not just someone talking to convert you into a plant-based eater, but there is something behind it. And when
Mhm.
you really get to know that, and when you comprehend and you understand, that's when it makes your life a little easier because you're informed and you're making an informed decision. So I think the challenge was, I think, around dairy primarily initially. And then eventually, yogurt was a big challenge because we don't do without yogurt on a daily basis.
Mhm.
But eventually, I think the world over, and especially a lot of people in Qatar, as you know, is a cosmopolitan place.
Mhm.
And a lot of Westerners started, being more pro plant-based foods, and there was a slight demand as well. So we saw a lot of these dairy-free yogurts come into the market.
Mhm.
That was a game changer
Mhm.
because the moment that came in, and the first one I remember was Alpro, I said, okay, now, we're set. So
Yeah.
that's our yogurt. And that was the only major issue that I was struggling with. And we're done now.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was good. But in terms of the family, I live with my husband here only. We don't have kids. But I have to say this, and I get emotional often when I talk about it, but he has been the most supporting factor in my life.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people who find it difficult to follow a certain type of diet, especially when it doesn't impact them by not following it, right?
Yeah.
But Arvind, he's been there with me throughout. He has agreed to follow what I follow because he sees sense in it.
Mhm.
He might not have the same reasons for doing it, but I think him accepting and being okay with it and actually being happy with it made my life easier. Otherwise, in a household of just two people to cook two different ways, it's a mammoth task, and it's not something that's easy to manage. And maybe I wouldn't have been eating what I do today if it wasn't for him.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. He's been
So
amazing for you.
yes, most definitely. And I continue to tell him, I make my weekly plans and I keep changing it. Sometimes it's very erratic and I'm suddenly putting seeds here and putting some nuts there. And he's okay with all of it. And I said, okay, great. So yeah, that's been fine.
It's so important to have that support. And like you say, you may not have made as much progress without it, without his.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point that we have a few friends today who have started practicing eating plant-based foods.
Mhm.
Some do it over the week and leave the weekends for their regular, what they used to eat, the meat or whatever. Some try and do it every couple of days. So everyone, I mean, there are at least 7 or 8 people we know in our circle today, just within Doha, who have started to make those changes. And it's inspiring and motivating that people are sort of at least giving it a shot. Try it. There's no harm in trying something and seeing how it impacts your life.
And the thing is, I think there's a belief that the food that you're eating, I had somebody say to me once, because I'm vegan. Well, you don't like food, so I wouldn't expect you to understand. And I think there's this belief that people who are eating plant-based diet don't like food or don't care what food tastes like, and I think it's completely the opposite. You
It
know,
is.
and I've learned so much from my time in Doha with how to make food taste really, really great and still be healthy. But we have if you just try a bite, you'll see that it's not the cardboard, fake
Yeah.
food you're thinking that it is. Yeah, yeah.
True.
So,
True.
I wanted to ask you, you had you had gone through this diagnosis, you had done a whole bunch of work, learning, studying, Googling about about your diagnosis, and you came upon some answers. And I do want to ask, what inspired you, or where was it, and why was it that you felt that you needed to, because all of a sudden I heard from you for some support. And so I'd like you to explain to people where you were and why you felt you needed some support from someone who does what I do.
Sure. As all things go, Google was my best friend initially, right?
Mhm.
But there is all sorts of information on Google. Sometimes you can't trust the source as well, right? There's so much agenda and there's so much propaganda around what people post about sometimes. You don't know who's behind it actually, who's sponsoring that post. So it's always difficult to sort of judge that. I think initially I definitely believe that a whole food plant-based diet is the way to go,
Mhm.
but how do you go about it exactly, right? What are those combinations? There might be small things. I remember when I first spoke to you as well, and I told you about what I'm doing, and you were amazed and you said, wow, you're already doing so much. But there was something very critical you told me, which never struck me till then, which was about gluten
Yes.
and how gluten could impact. And when you told me that, I was like, oh my God, that was like bam. I said, gluten is in my bread, gluten is in my, rotis and my chapatis and what I order in and my pasta. And how am I going to stop gluten ever?
Mhm.
But I remember stopping it. And in a week or a couple of weeks, it's not only the weight dropping, which is also a good sign, but it's just me feeling lighter.
Mhm.
It's just me feeling better. It's me feeling healthier. It's me feeling no bloating at all.
Mhm.
Those things also go a long way. So it's important. I think I needed some direction, some
Mhm.
perspective, some important and critical tips that you might not get from a Google search.
Yes.
You know, a Google can tell you eat chia seeds and eat flax seeds, but it doesn't tell you what you don't eat. It just says fried food, right?
Mhm.
Or it says soda or sugar. But
Mhm.
gluten is such a controversial topic today that most people say, unless you have an allergy, don't stop it.
Right.
But when you told me, and then I read about it as well, it said that a lot of MS symptoms are also triggered by gluten
Mhm. Mhm.
because they're not absorbed. And I remember you did that little sketch for me where you showed me how it gets stuck in the intestine and blocks. And I said, oh my God, that's been in my head forever. And I said, okay, maybe gluten is not it.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's so true that you're we really don't know, until someone else looks at what you're doing. It's really hard for us to judge if we're doing it okay or not, because we've
Right.
been conditioned to eat a certain way, and that certain way to a lot of people is considered quote unquote healthy. And
Right.
so um, and while it might be healthy or okay, it doesn't mean that there isn't a root cause it could be a contributing factor to what's going on. And to dissect that really is what you did. We did together, I guess, is dissected
Yes.
that. Yeah, yeah.
And
I,
that made a lot of difference. So thank you for that.
oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's always so amazing and so gratifying to have a conversation with a client and then know that down the road when you talk to them again, that what you've suggested they've complied to, and the changes that they've seen. And like you said with the gluten, taking that out for a while, it didn't take long before you noticed a change in how you were
Right.
feeling. You made mention of your weight, and can you share a little bit about your weight loss over
Sure.
the course of this change of diet?
Sure. So while my weight loss wasn't drastic, I think what I was telling you earlier was I went from about 70, 71 to about 62 today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not over the course of years. This is actually over the course of the last few months. But over the years, the weight has been more stable. The overall feeling has been lighter. The energy is higher. I have never played the amount of sports I play today. I'm not a pro at any of those, right? But it's more about just being active and, keep breathing and keep, pumping your heart and all of that. And I told you this earlier, I play like badminton once a week, squash once a week. I'm learning tennis from a coach. Arvind's with me throughout all of these. and we're doing it together as a couple as well. So I think the diet has helped that. It's helped me be more active. And activity by default, a byproduct of that is weight loss. And I have seen the changes, and it feels so good. I mean, it might be superficial when you say that, oh my God, I feel so good fitting into a certain, dress. But then that is what we live for, right? We want to be confident and we want to feel good and be active and be healthy. So I think that entire shift has helped me get there. And I'm still not quite through to my end goal, but that's not far away. Earlier it was really far and unachievable, but today it is very achievable. And I know in another 6 months, I know I'll be there.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Exercise plays such a big role in overall health, and people don't realize it. It makes you feel better. First of all, the diet shifted, which gave you enough energy to go through with doing all these sports. But the exercise itself is an antidepressant. It helps detox the body. It helps keep the muscles and the body strong. It's good for your bone health. And so all of these things that you're doing is the way we're meant to be. We're meant to eat well, we're meant to exercise, we're meant to move our body, and we're not meant to be depressed and sick and overweight. And so you're a perfect example of how shifting the mindset to shift diet has made a big, big difference for you. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, it's already, we've already been chatting for half an hour, and so grateful that you agreed to chat with me today, Anna. I wanted to ask you, I think we get a sense of how you're feeling now, but what is it that you see for yourself? Because I know that there's been so many changes in your life, so many, your relationship on, personal level and of course with your health. So what is your future? What do you have planned for you right now for your future?
I have a few things planned. I see a very bright one, of course, but like I said, there are a few more goals that I want to reach. And I think we have spoken about this earlier as well. One is, of course, the weight. Yes, that is a byproduct. And I know if I continue what I do, then I will get there. So I'm not very worried about that, although it is a very primary goal. But I think the larger part is that I need to be off my medication. The good news is that when I was first diagnosed, I was told that I need to take the medication till I'm 45, 50. That's the typical sort of time frame. But because my MRI reports have shown a marginal improvement in the last 2 years, it's been great. And because of that, I might be able to just stop it at 40, which is, literally 5 to 10 years in advance, which makes me feel that all the effort that has gone in to sort of live a symptom-free life is sort of finally paying back, and you can see it in the results. So yes, that's the goal. I want to be off the medication. But also, this is something as well, and it's a personal goal for me. While I do have a stable, career and career path and all of that in comms, I think I'm looking to become a nutritionist myself at some point. I have been studying for it. I haven't been able to complete the course yet, but once it's complete, that's when I will start small somewhere and start doing something. I've been, trying to support people and just give them, small tips and tricks on what to do and how to eat. And that's been a good thing. And part of that was also inspired by you after I spoke to you, because I know you've been through something as well, and you have come out and you have started helping people, and that's important. So I feel the whole purpose is about raising awareness. And that's why I'm here today. And that's why I accepted this, even though it was not something I would have initiated myself, to be and go there out in the open and talk about it openly. But I think people need to know that it's okay to have a medical condition, whether you have diabetes or you have MS or you have anything else. And it's important to share with them what you have gone through and how it's helped you, so that maybe they can do something similar and see maybe it can help them as well. Right? You don't need to go through something and be scared of it. You rather face it and find a solution towards it. And I think that is why that's my eventual goal. If I want to become a nutritionist, it's more about that.
Yeah.
To
And
try
you
and
will
help
find,
people.
we will find, you'll find that most people who do what I do and down the road the same with you is because we've been through a challenge, a similar challenge, and we have scraped and clawed our way out of it. And so we're so passionate about it because we know it can be done.
Yes.
And you're living proof of that right now with what you're doing. And if I can mention to the audience that Anna is on Instagram as Plant-Based Indian. If you want to find her there, because she's giving some tips and things on her Instagram. So which I think is fantastic, because you know, if you're looking to go that route, Anna, then that's very commendable, and you will make an impact with people. Hopefully today, that, you know, that's why I'm doing these interviews, to try to help people see that they don't have to suffer, they don't have to live a miserable life, they don't have to be you know, managing symptoms all the time. Your goal was to live a symptom-free life, and it sounds like you're doing just that.
Yes, and thank you so much, because these kind of sessions really bring people out of the closet, if I may say so, right? It brought me out today. Very few people know about the condition, and like you said very rightly, you know, you don't have to be scared about it. It's okay. You just need to know from the right people who have gone through it, such as
Yeah.
yourself. You know,
Mhm.
someone who can guide people the right way, who's had the experience, to know that it's going to be okay and you can actually live with it all your life. To the point, and again, I don't want to put any other condition down, but when I was diagnosed and I was absolutely devastated because of what you read on Google, the doctor told me that, look, MS, the kind I have, requires a pill every day, right? But there is no other restriction. He told me, please go ahead and be as active as you can. Try and eat as healthy as you can, work as much as you want, and just don't stress about things, right?
Mhm.
There are other conditions where it's more restricted. Your food is restricted, your timings are restricted, but it's not that bad. So when you have a supportive group, you have the right information, you have the right guidance, and you have the willpower within. I think nothing is impossible, and you can still live a healthy life and do a lot more than you would have ever imagined.
Mhm.
So thank you so much, Janice. I think it's a great initiative from your side.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. That's very kind of you. So pleased to hear your progress so far, and I'm looking forward to hearing about it as the years go down, as the years go on, and you're just getting better and better. So yeah. So thank you, everyone. Again, we've been chatting, Anna and I, about multiple sclerosis and her journey with that. So I'll be back live on Tuesday with Karen, and she'll be talking to us about yoga, and I will post the details about that. So thank you again, everyone. Tune in on Tuesday, and thanks again, Anna.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.